crypto asset? Bitcoin's the best crypto asset. Which one's the best crypto asset? Bitcoin's the best crypto asset. Which one's the best? 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 What's the second best?
This is Discover Crypto. I am DZ's uglier brother, Drew, filling in for him, the man, the myth, the legend. He is feeling a little bit under the weather today. He's doing some silent films in the background. Shout out and plus one in the chat for DZ. We have 4 hours left until a major event happens within the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell, and the rate decision. How will the markets react? We're going to take a look at a lot of different levels on Bitcoin. We did have a slight rally after yesterday's thumbnail. Apparently, we moved the entire market ourselves, and it's probably you guys in the chat pressing the like button, sharing the stream out that helped us tap our head against $90,000 again. It felt good, and obviously, I'm joined by the wonderful TJ. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Not so obvious these days. I feel like it's been forever. I mean, I was on with you guys last night, but happy to be back. I've missed you guys. Drew and I did cover Trump's economic speech yesterday, but we've got some really exciting things in the work. Not that I can talk about right now, but we've had some all-day meetings in the office, some really big fundamental things for the future of Discover Crypto and everything going on here. So I'm very excited about that. I was telling my wife last night, and I'm also, my mind is just blown with Claude or Moltbot and AI and everything that's happening with that. I was telling my wife last night that I'm not only am I more bullish on crypto than I've ever been before, but I'm probably more overall bullish and optimistic over the next 2 to 5 years than I've been in a long time, many years. So it's an extremely exciting time to be in crypto, extremely exciting time to be on the internet, doing things with the internet, playing with technology. Just being on the edge of emerging technology is so fun. We're just in such a cool space, and
I liked our conversation this morning, TJ. It's like, you can be afraid of the future and what's being built, or you can leverage it. And this is a realm where we have to think about these things as the world is moving forward. Now, as we said, Bitcoin did have a momentary rally yesterday. It felt good, and we were able to bump our heads, just like Karen here. Every time Bitcoin hits its head against the $90,000 mark, it goes just like that. Then we fall back down, and we've been trading in a range that's actually been holding pretty concisely on my trading chart. Told you guys what I was going to do on my trading plan yesterday. I made good on that, and I made exactly 1.5 bumpers in Tether. And if you need to know what I'm talking about, I am now sniffing around some doomsday bumpers for the TRD Sequoia. So I'm on my way to basically fully fitting that truck out. Now, this is an interesting note from Eric Balchunas. He's talking about the dread he's seeing from Bitcoiners, and the football spiking from the haters is very short-sighted to him, given that since 2022, right before BlackRock's ETF filing, Bitcoin is now up 429%. The boomers celebrating as they should. Gold is up 177%. Silver up 350%, still losing to the upside in Bitcoin over the past few years here. Let's be honest. Now, the QQQ is up by 140%. In other words, Bitcoin spanked everything so bad in 2023 and 24. People forgot that these other assets still haven't caught up, even after having their greatest year ever, and Bitcoin basically being in a coma. In my opinion, what happened was the institutionalization narrative. It got priced in very quickly, very early, ahead of everything actually happening. Completely agree with this take. So it had to take the breather, and the actual narrative can catch up to price. Feel better now. This is a great take. I think, looking at the chart for Bitcoin, we showed it last night on that Trump speech.
Yep.
It doesn't look like max pain. This chart does not show me max pain. Right?
No, and what it reminds me of is how not short-sighted, how much of a recency bias, not only just retail traders, but especially the crypto market has. There's a major recency bias that we just completely forget. Like this post mentions, at 23, 24, Bitcoin was crushing against every other asset out there. Now in in 25 and early 26, we see a rally in metals and we act like, oh, it's, GG Bitcoin. And it was like, well, it still hasn't even caught up to what Bitcoin just did. So, and if we get, we've covered it plenty of times, so I don't need to reiterate, but yeah, the catch up that happens on Bitcoin after these metals settle down, I think is going to be glorious. I really do believe. I mean, we've got Besant out here. I don't necessarily need to play the audio on this clip, but he's more or less saying we're going to have a massive boom in 2026 that could extend for several years. Talking about gas prices coming down. He's talking about stimulus checks going out to people. They are signaling the same thing that I believe, that when the money printing kicks in, and I mean, somebody asked in the comments in here, when does this, what month in 2026? And I say June. If I think we're going to have Powell out. We're going to get into that a little bit later in the show. Obviously, we've got FOMC today. That's a major event. No expected change on the rate, so I'm not expecting any kind of crazy bullish price action today. But we know they're talking about Rick Reeder, the former BlackRock executive who's stepping in to be the new Fed chair. And he's been extremely bullish or dovish in his remarks, saying that they should cut it 100 basis points. So I'm expecting a significant cut in June, which would be extremely bullish for the markets. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. I like to call him Rick Ryder. It sounds a lot more fun than Rick Reeder.
I absolutely do. Yes, yeah. Rick Ryder. And it reminds me of the kid from the Christmas Story with I'm poking an eye out with that thing, the Red Ryder shooter thing.
Yeah, exactly. Get Rick Ryder in there. That just sounds like a lot more fun. It's more entertaining, but I know it's Rick Reeder, but anyway,
I really think about what you said about this is a battle of position of power between BlackRock and JP Morgan. I think there's a lot of truth to that. JP Morgan is the old school guard behind the US dollar and the banking infrastructure. BlackRock aggressively moved into single family housing, insane upside, now aggressively moving into crypto. This is a battle and a potential changing of the guards that I'm seeing here. And this is crazy. This is absolutely nuts. DZ brought this up to me. This is insane. So Scottie Pippen, it's 1:52 a.m. Just woke up from a dream. Haven't seen Satoshi in a while. And all he said was, I'm about to wake up. And then I woke up. So Scottie Pippen.
Hey.
Okay. So the idea of Satoshi's wallet waking up, that would create quite a flash crash, in my opinion.
Oh, I don't think he's talking about Satoshi's wallet waking up. He's saying Satoshi is about to wake, like Bitcoin is about to wake up and the market's getting ready to run. But, you gotta love.
I like that take.
Gotta love Scottie Pippen and his visits from Satoshi. He said he met Satoshi in 1993 and he's been visited by Satoshi in a dream several times. So I see the super chat here from Niles. What is going on with Chainlink sub $10 incoming?
I'll check out the chart.
Yeah, pull it up. We got plenty of stories to cover, but
let's bring it up.
That's pretty. I don't think anything's going on. It's fundamentally getting more and more use, and I would say it's definitely an infrastructure play. It just doesn't always translate into price. So if you've been on this Chainlink ride for a while, the macro news and the price associated with it don't always seem to be all that correlated, believe it or not. So
yeah, basically this green line is my back up the truck moment on Chainlink to add to the Chainlink position. I've only added to Chainlink substantially twice in my entire trading career. The first time was the flu season $1.90 lovely spot here. And then I backed up the truck again at $5 in September of 23. I don't know exactly where that line, somewhere in this zone, because it was the bottom end of this trading channel. Now, how I view this is the top end of the trading channel is likely going to be a very, very strong defense point for price, particularly on the token. So, I have still held my Chainlink that I've accumulated in those two buy points. But if I do see the price go to about $9.40, $9.50, the top end of this channel, I'm going to be shooting off a lot of the Tether that I actively trade with into more spot Chainlink. There aren't a bunch of cryptos that I can really put my flag on the hill and be like, yes, this project's going to be around for a long time. But Chainlink is one of those projects that I feel is going to be around for a long time. And honestly, it's a series of higher lows, you know, and it's not too out of pocket to see it test. This is a much smaller market cap than Ethereum, much smaller market cap than a lot of the larger projects. So I'm watching it pretty closely, but honestly, it's a long-term kind of multi-cycle hold for me at this point. And about $9.40 is where my ears will perk up, and I will absolutely hammer into another large buy. So that is my opinion of Chainlink. I love it as a project. I think it's infrastructurally important, but the markets are potentially headed for some chaos, right? We have some chaos going on. Bitcoin, it was eyes on $90,000, and it absolutely did hit $90,000 recently. Let's just take a look at this. So it attempted to break the resistance level at $90,000 on Wednesday, as traders expect volatile price swings before and after the U.S. policy decision on interest rate cuts from the Federal Reserve and Jerome Powell, which we will be covering live later on today at around 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Odds of the U.S. Federal Reserve leaving interest rates unchanged today are basically 100%. So there's not much chance of any sort of interest rate cut today. Bitcoin price may drop as low as $65,000 if the key support zone between $80,000 and $84,000 is broken. And actually, this is pretty concise TA. Usually I like to pick apart the TA in these articles as much as I can, but $84,000 is the last level of the main volume node that we're sitting just above right now on Bitcoin, on the visible volume profile. So if you lose 84, in essence, it's a quick ride downtown to Chinatown. There is nearly 100,000 or 100% chance that the current interest rates will remain the same at 3.5 to 3.75. And market participants say that any bearish price action from unchanged interest rates is already priced in. I kind of want to ask you in the chat, do you feel that this no rate change, no hope of cheaper money is already being priced into Bitcoin? Yes or no in the chat. Let me know what you think. Your guys' opinions matter to me a lot. And this is the Bitcoin price action right now. This is crazy. I showed you guys this general range that I've been trading. It's very, very simple. And what we did was we took this long yesterday at the 87.3 mark. I closed it about halfway up, right? I made it halfway up to about 88.5, closed at all positions, made some good chunks. It continued up in a very, very surprising and exciting fashion to about $90,274 before pulling back, but it's only down from that $90,000 mark by about 1.6%. So this is a time frame where I can acknowledge that there is people out there that want a macro bull market to happen. I know why, because we all want cheaper Bitcoin, right? Do BlackRock and JP Morgan ever give the retail what they want? The answer is no to that. So I'm in the situation right now where we haven't really lost that $84,000 mark. This is where the guts of the volume node on this upper range is, the bottom end of that volume node. So I'm still feeling more long than short in this situation. If we break below $84,000, then my thesis will change and be 2/3 short to long. But in general, man, I'm feeling fine. And the general price to produce Bitcoins at 74,000 bucks. If I am such a lucky boy to spend my tether, I'm making trading on cheaper Bitcoin in that range. You know, I'm going to be doing that, right? So that's kind of my opinion about this. It is a little bit uncertain, and there's a lot of things playing into this. There is other sources of volatility to contend with the Japanese economy, the yen carry trade potential, U.S. government shutdown being talked about from all the political partisanship that's going on in the United States, particularly stemming out of Minnesota, and the Fed's move to buy yen. TJ, how fun was it that we're going to be buying yen with newly created American dollars to make you feel good?
It makes me feel good as being an asset holder because basically that signals to the market it's okay to stay very, very much risk on. So yeah, if it'll be good for our bags. It's not good for the strength of the US dollar, which I did see a question come in about that, and we're going to be talking about that. So I did want to mention, while you're talking about all that trading stuff and some of the key things to keep an eye on today. Again, I know we talk about it a lot, but our Discord community absolutely crushing it. Our quant here send an update in. This is very valuable stuff here, you know, talking about not just, you know, obviously the FOMC statement today and the press conference from Powell and what he talks about will have a pretty significant, oftentimes, impact on the market. But we've also got Australia's CPI coming out, Canada's monetary policy report coming out. So there's a lot of, you know, Obviously, Australia and Canada economy not anywhere close to the scale of the U.S. economy, but not small either. So we've got bullish scenarios, bearish scenarios, and we've had several calls that played. He flipped long yesterday, and everybody in the Discord caught that ride up. We were talking about it yesterday. A lot of happy people in there. Yesterday afternoon. So if you guys are trading, even if you're not super active in trading and you just want to kind of plug in a little bit more and have super just have engagement with people that are watching this stuff all day, every day. There's a great community in there. The link is in the description. It's free to join. So,
well, yesterday I had my own ideas, and I was thinking long, and then I saw the quant came in with just a slew of longs. That gave me extra confluence, right? So
exactly,
it was really great, and it is worth it. Not all trading bots or quants are created equal. I have to cover this. DZ had highlighted this for me. This is nuts. So there's a trader that gave Claudebot full control of over 25 strategies, 12 algorithms, and 3,000 reports. Basically information and different tug and pull from all directions. This Claudebot still wipes the entire portfolio. This is the best comment. The bot looked at the 1 minute chart and decided that being poor was the best risk management strategy. Absolutely legend. Just on this regard, we did spend a long time vetting our quant that is now in the Discord. And I'm actually going to hop into what's going on in the Discord real quick to see, because I did see trade closed out, take profit 1 hit, trade closed out, take profit 1, take profit 2 on this Ethereum trade. I mean, this is absolutely crazy. He's giving heads up on the trades coming and then might cancel them if the structure of the market changes ahead of the actual implementation of this. So this is a great way. I used this when we start, because my heart said no, Bitcoin's going to hold 100K. I wanted to long. The bot came in, grabbed me on the shoulder, and was like, no, Drew, you have to short. And so I shorted, and it made me a lot of tether. And now I am feeling absolutely fantastic in these lows, right? I've added more Bitcoin to my kids' bags, more crypto in my bags of things that I like, and I feel fantastic. So if it's literally free, and it gives you another point of conflicts if you are actively trading or trying to find ways to make money no matter which way the market goes. Very powerful tool. Now, the weaker US dollar conversation is quite interesting. We're heading into looser financial conditions as things look. Jerome Powell is going to hold rates the best he can. The DXY has dipped again as of yesterday. It is lost 10% on the year. Not looking great, but with that higher nominal GDP growth, higher asset prices, and higher U.S. exports and lower trade deficits, this creating an easier debt servicing to the U.S. government. This is why Trump said the dollar's doing great, as we were sitting there cascading to the downside on the buying power of it.
Like, if you go ahead and pull up the DXY while we're talking about this, a lot of people asking about that, which, again, this is good for Bitcoin generally and for all those reasons that just mentioned. Why is the dollar dumping? Because we're talking about printing a ton of dollars to buy a failing currency that is the yen. That's what I said. It's good for risk assets, but it's bad for the strength of the dollar. We've covered this a lot on the channels over the years of he who prints last wins. So the U.S. is the last to devalue their dollar. The yuan and the yen and all these other currencies have devalued more. But yeah, now we're heading, you can see there, while the Fed was in quantitative tightening, the dollar was getting stronger and stronger and stronger. All the other central banks had cut their rates earlier. We're going to be the last one to cut our rates. And I think the markets are starting to price that in. And that's why you see the value of the dollar going down. That's why all these central banks are buying gold instead of the dollar, which again is good if you're holding assets, especially hard assets. And why is it going down? Essentially, because the printing and the fiscal responsibility is just out of control. And that's going to continue. And that's why we Bitcoin. That's why we're here. That's why you're here. And, that's why. But people are confused. Like, why is he saying the dollar's doing good when it's had its worst year in, decades? And it's like, well, because it's doing good for his agenda and doing good for what creates good talking points. And they know this, and this is part of why I get so frustrated with central banks and politicians, because it's such like they treat the public like they're stupid. And maybe they are uninformed, maybe they don't understand how some of this stuff works, but it's extremely intellectually dishonest because they do understand how this stuff works. very, very, very well. And so, yeah, it's frustrating. I had this thing. I was going to save it till the end, but let's see who posted this. Let me find it. Yeah, here it is.
I'm feeling queasy looking at this DXY chart. Like this thing looks like it wants to be worth 89 cents on the dollar.
Yeah, well, but zoom out to like if you're looking at the bottom there, those are the years. Look at what happened in 2020, 2020. Yeah, all in there. Like that was while the Fed that uptrend right there. That let's see, it's hard to see that.
That's June and October 2022 right here where we overperformed.
Well, and that was when, so that was just before we bottomed in the crypto market. When that huge spike up is when crypto was crashing. That huge spike down, yeah, right there. That's when crypto was at its absolute lowest. Before that, go back a year, and you can see how it was plummeting down into that. That was when crypto was in its heyday. When the price of the DXY was falling, to right there, that's when crypto was absolutely going nuts. And so it's, we're heading back towards that territory. And if we start getting into those lows of the early, early 2000, 2009, 2010.
Yeah, this is the housing crisis, 2008, 2009 right here.
Yeah, we could be going significantly lower. Like you said, 89 cents seems likely at this point, which would bode well for assets and commodities, gold, silver, Bitcoin, real estate, equities, almost anything that has a value and a hard cap, which should perform extremely well in that environment. Now, the intellectual dishonesty we have to deal with is this. I thought this was a really good thing. I'm going to read it. It's a little bit long, but it's basically, I'm a reserve manager at a central bank. My job is buying gold, but 297 tons this year, quietly, while we print money. This is what's happening. This is why the DXY is going down. We print money loudly. Gold could hit 5,000. Gold hit 5,000 an ounce yesterday. We've been buying since 1800. We called it reserve diversification. Diversification means we don't trust our own currency, but we can't say that. So we say diversification. Governor went on television last month and he said, inflation is anchored. Anchored means 6%. Used to mean 2%. And this is, optimistic, but it does feel like, we're anchored in the mid to high, closer to 10% than 2%. We moved the anchor. That's monetary policy. He said the currency's sound. Sound means losing 20% of its value per year. But it sounds good. That's what matters. We bought 45 tons in November. Poland bought 95 tons. Brazil bought 43. China 1 ton. China's lying. We all know that. Nobody says it, which, that's I just love that. Very true. China can't trust any of their reports. Right. 95% of central banks plan to buy more gold next year. That's a survey. We surveyed ourselves on whether we trust ourselves. We don't. We trust gold. Citizens ask why prices keep rising. We say supply chains. We say external factors. We don't say we printed 40% of all money in existence since 2020. That's the truth. That's what I tell people all the time.
Right.
That's not external. That's us. The finance minister asked if gold is a hedge against our own policies. I said, gold is a strategic reserve asset. Strategic means yes. I just can't say yes. Gold is $5,000 now. Our currency buys less every day. Our gold buys more. That's the strategy for us, not for you. You get the currency. We get the gold. And that right there is central banking.
It is kind of disheartening when you think about like a third world country that's out here stacking gold, and they've been doing it since $2,000, $3,000. They're stacking gold into their own holdings while they're absolutely gutting the value of the fiat currency that the peasants are out there using at the same time.
The guys that are actually mining the gold.
It's so wrong. And like this DXY chart is pretty terrifying, to be honest. Like, this looks like the main point of power and the likely bounce point is 89.5 cents. I don't know. I'm just looking at this from TA perspective. Also quite terrifying to look at the last time gold reacted to basically a stagflationary market like what we're seeing right now. The DXY decided, no, you're not going into gold. You're instead going into the US dollar by manipulation and force, as you can see. And this is what kind of caused that 20-year bear market that I always talk about that happened after the stagflationary gold pump of 79 to 80 right there. So that's terrifying. Looking at this though, yeah, I mean, if I'm looking at it from a TA perspective, it is losing the upward trend line here. And, if we don't find any support for the DXY in the mid 90s, it's heading to 89 cents. That's absolutely crazy. Shout out to Kelly in the background. He's got these market updates and reports that are getting ready to roll out as articles on our Discover Crypto X account.
Some of them are. Yeah, we have been posting them on there. So if you're not following our X accounts, just Discover Crypto. Make sure to get in there. And these articles are really good and very helpful.
Yeah, this is I absolutely love these write-ups. Gold hit 52.49. Silver at $113 this morning. Absolutely crazy. New all-time highs tagged on both. While crypto is in a fear zone of 29, absolutely crazy. FOMC decision today, as we covered. Traders warned of a narrative whipsaw as Fed focus shifts to jobs. A Steak and Shake doubling down. Have you gotten a Bitcoin burger from Steak and Shake yet?
I haven't. I've been there. I've seen. I love that it's the first thing that you see on the little kiosk there. But I don't often eat at Steak and Shake. I have talked about it a little bit here. If I go to Steak and Shake, it's to get a shake. It's not to get a burger. But I love what they're doing.
Okay. Well, I highly recommend they stamp the Bitcoin symbol.
Yeah,
on the
it is
burger.
cool. I've seen the pictures.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm a fan of burgers. Okay. I'm a fan of burgers. That's going to be written on my casket. So shout out to Kelly for putting these write-ups together. I absolutely love these things. And shout out to the trading group having fun with all these take profit moments. Now let's keep on moving through the news. We already talked about the weak dollar. I want to talk about what Trump said about the dollar. For 12 months, the US dollar has been in sharp decline, falling by 10%. As I said, in 2025, that means $100,000 is now worth 90 in terms of buying power over the course of 1 year, right? Got to find some way to house our buying power and increase it and outpace inflation. If you're not, you're going to lose. It's the worst year since 2017. Minutes ago, the first time President Trump commented on the decline. The value of the dollar is great. And it's exactly what TJ said. This is all by design. They want the value of the fiat to go down as their assets go up. And they want you to remain poor. They want the poorer that you and I and anyone out there is compared to central banks, the more controllable we are. This is why Bitcoin gives me the opportunity to work from a position of strength for my local community. It's a very, very wonderful thing that I just wish people would look at inflation to really understand and make that decision for themselves. Now, the Clarity Act, the market structure bill is being talked about. The Senate Agricultural Committee set to vote on the crypto market structure bill. On Thursday's markup, we'll see a handful of amendments debated and voted upon by the committee. So this is very, very interesting to see that they're trying to talk about this week.
This is huge. I mean, that's tomorrow. There's a chance that this gets voted on at 3 p.m. tomorrow from what I'm seeing. And if this, you guys know, I've been belaboring this point nonstop, but once this passes, everything in crypto changes. Binance can't do Binance things. Market makers can't do market maker things. And there will actually be a rule of law in the land of crypto of what's permissible and what isn't. The main thing holding us up right now has been banks fighting for these stablecoin yields, which again, they're fighting a losing battle. They're throwing money at nothing because even if they got their way, all that would happen, and this is, I think it just shows their fundamental misunderstanding of the space. All that would happen is these companies would incorporate outside the US, and yeah, sure, you'd have a USD dollar token that was then wrapped in a USD, some other yield-bearing token that's outside the US that Tether creates, and they would be redeemable between each other. And so, okay, I'm going to keep, rather than keeping my cash in USDC, now I'm going to convert it to, you know, USDCY, and it's going to live over here. And, you know, so there's no way they're going to win this battle. And I think they've come to that conclusion. So, and we didn't mention this yesterday, but Tether and Circle are becoming the new central banks. Tether bought more gold than any other central bank, and they're continuing to buy. And so that's, I think, what's terrifying to these central banks. Oh, there it is. The company now holds 140 tons of gold, valued roughly at $23 billion. They're buying it as fast or faster than anybody else. And so now these central banks have realized, like, oh no, Circle and Tether are coming for our jobs, and they're much more efficient. And then the JP Morgans of the world are realizing, like, oh no, Coinbase and Kraken and Aave and a lot of these other type of neobank type products are coming for our yields. We need to adapt and adapt fast. And I think they obviously they have ways to get equity in these other companies, and they will adapt. That's part of what old money does, is they control everything. So I don't really think this is necessarily going to, it's definitely changing the power structure somewhat. New people are getting seats at the table, but it's not necessarily going to kick out all that old money. But yeah, we're seeing part of why it's so choppy right now is ever since BlackRock kind of threw their hat in the ring and said, yes, we're going all in on this, we endorse this industry, that's when we started to see the market behave different less predictable than it had been in the past, because that's when the true power struggles started happening and the jockeying for the seats at the new table that's being built. And I think a lot of old money will still be there, but the Brian Armstrongs and the Jesse Powell from Kraken and the Stanis from Aave and the Sergeys from Chainlink, Sergey from Chainlink is now the new Larry Ellison from Oracle. And, Stani from Aave might be the new JP Morgan, and that stuff takes time, and that stuff doesn't happen without a fight. And I'm not dubbing them that yet. I'm just saying what they've done with these emerging technologies, what DeFi is really doing to TradFi is an absolute game changer. We're going to talk about that a little bit more. Morgan Stanley, Fidelity, all of these big asset managers are coming into crypto with force. I think Morgan Stanley yesterday appointed a new head of digital assets. Like I said, I was texting. I don't know if it was on the show yesterday or on the show with you, but my contact at Morgan Stanley, who's been talking to their head of wealth management, and they are moving very, very quickly towards digital assets. The Morpho had some big news with getting involved with Kraken and some of these.
I'm getting more FOMO on Morpho, and it's driving me nuts. You know what I mean? Like, it's driving. I'm going to be doing a video that's coming out tonight, actually, on Morpho. And I think what me and you said last night is the real thing. It's the fact that these banks will even acknowledge DeFi exists means that they know we are a threat to them. So it feels
they may not view us as a threat, but they know we are the future, and so they need to get their hands around it one way or the other. But I mean, if you believe capital markets trend towards the most efficient, lowest risk yield, then there's no way it doesn't just continue pouring into crypto or on chain. Like, the entire traditional finance market is going on chain and going on chain fast, probably a lot faster. It feels slow because this is kind of where my brain thought, like in 2017, I thought, oh man, by 2020, all of this is going to be done. And it wasn't even close in 2020. And now in 2026, really, it's starting to happen. 2026, maybe 2027, 2028, 2029. We'll see trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars pour into on-chain infrastructure. And that will, again, this industry will go from a $3 trillion industry to a $30 trillion industry in a short time period. And it allows, and you have the opportunity to ride that wave, which is why we get so excited and get so bullish. Now, that's not a 3-month wave. Short time period in finance is 5 years, something like that, 10 years. That's fast when you're talking to some of these people that have been in power since before this United States existed. And that's just the way the world works. So
yeah, I mean, we're in a moment where everything we know of how money moves and how communication happens is changing in a very fast pace. Now we have AI in the mix. This is a 30-headed hydra of change to humanity. With the market structure bill, there are some markups and some things being debated on within it. Obviously, the snow is cleared in D.C. and Senator Marshall from Kansas, representative out of the Republican side, and Durbin, a Democrat out of Illinois, have said that they do not plan to offer their credit card swipe fee amendment during the markup. That development resulted in a collective sigh of relief from the bill's proponents, who say non-crypto related amendments would have imperiled the bill's chances of getting through the committee. Thursday markup will also see a handful of amendments debated and voted upon by the committee, including a proposal from Senator Michael Bennet, a Democrat out of Colorado, that is going to impose ethics rules on government officials and their families when it comes to holding or engaging in crypto, aka a Trojan horse for them to go after Trump with later down the road. Senate Agricultural Committee ranking member Amy Klobuchar, a Democrat out of Minnesota. Why is it Colorado and Minnesota? That's got to be at the top of the list here for the amendments. It's filed an amendment that would delay the bill from being implemented until the CTFTC at least has a 4 confirmed commissioners set up, including 2 minority party members who will be selected after consulting with ranking minority member of the committee. Klobuchar's second amendment would also narrow the definition of retail participant and clarify that the proposed Office of Digital Commodity Retail Advocates is meant to protect retail customers. Sure you do. And not represent registered or regulated crypto firms. Maybe they're just figuring out how the local population in Minnesota can get involved with their next heist now that the daycares are starting to wind down on them, potentially. But, I think the bigger battle here is the yield that stable coins and crypto can offer. This is a writer from Gallios, Kevin. Imagine stable coins are forbidden from passing
This is
yield.
exactly what I was talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. This is the real reason. Now, TJ, I want to ask you, we haven't seen any new crash outs from Coinbase leader Brian Armstrong. We haven't seen any new kind of freak outs on yield being barred out of crypto. So I'm hopeful that those things have been worked out. What does your gut say about if
my
they're
gut
gonna
says
allow?
they'll probably find some type of compromise, and at the end of the day, it won't really matter too much in the industry. This is exactly what I was talking about. There's workarounds for every type of legal thing they're going to try to write in there. So either the banks will have accepted defeat on this, and it might just become a little bit more challenging on some of these yield bearing things, but it's not going anywhere. You know, it's growing at an exponential rate. And that's kind of what I was saying. Capital will find its way to these opportunities, now that may not be as easy as log into Coinbase, stake your earn on your USDC. That's what they're afraid of. You know, right now, Coinbase and Kraken pay 4% ish on stable coins. That's terrifying to a bank that pays you less than 0.04%. And they keep all that money for themselves. And that basically is a direct threat to their bottom line. So, I do believe this will happen. The question is how hard do they make it for what they're really trying to do is prevent retail and prevent the everyday person from having access to it. They don't care that they're going to have access to it. They don't care that these things exist. They just don't want the everyday man to be able to I can just create this account and click this button and actually earn interest on my dollars that are getting debased extremely fast, and at least get some of that inflation back. If they're inflating me at 10%, if I can at least get 4.5%, 5%, and at least my dollars are somewhat holding their buying power, that's what they don't want. They want you to stay in their system. They want to have time to update it. They want to have time to build their offshore stuff and have it all built in. And then, maybe we'll give you a percent later on, but they definitely don't want it to be as easy as it has been right now. And that's the threat for them.
They're trying to weld the escape door closed, essentially.
Exactly. Just stay in there and keep working. We'll take care of this money stuff.
We found the exit. We found the exit. We know we're looking right down the hallway of the exit of this scam system. They're trying to weld the door closed right now. So $2 trillion asset manager Morgan Stanley is hiring a head of digital asset strategy. This is quite bullish for people that are in the know about crypto right now. I do still feel like in general, we're early in crypto.
We are.
Even if you're not holding huge bags, if you're learning and understanding how these systems work, you're going to be useful to many, many different organizations. This is experience right now that you can go out and gather for free and be a very, very important part of how money is changing right now. These asset managers like Morgan Stanley, BlackRock's going on a hiring spree, and these are kind of the top of it. You're going to see hiring and a piece of communication that needs to be built between the existing system and crypto. Those are going to be jobs that people can absolutely take. If you have the knowledge, if you know how these systems work, you're going to be an asset and something that is sought after. And you really need to think about these things as AI is starting to do away with a lot of the use cases that we knew and appreciated, right? We used to have all kinds of different jobs that really are starting to dwindle down. Amazon fired 15,000 people this morning. Right? There are massive, massive chunks of layoffs that are happening within major corporations that are basically automating the positions. So just be mindful of that. Morgan Stanley is hiring for this. Veteran executive Amy Oldenburg is going to lead the investment bank, the new crypto unit within it, just weeks after announcing plans to launch 3 crypto exchange traded funds and a crypto wallet. Very interesting. They're launching a crypto wallet. Oldenburg has been leading the emerging markets team since November of 21, where she was tasked with driving decisions in digital asset strategy. These are all the job listings. Obviously, you can go on LinkedIn. These things are starting to pop up all over the place, and they're not for the small little shops. We're seeing some pretty big names start to hire for these positions. Morgan Stanley launched this, but as I said, even BlackRock is out here expanding their team, many, many funds. And this is going to expand, I think, into many, many asset classes. So just be in the know. If you can't do anything but learn, Learning and knowledge is power. It weighs nothing, and you can gather all of it right now while things are seemingly boring in crypto. And once you see that the immovable object of Bitcoin meeting the unstoppable force of the US government colliding together, learning to get along with each other, you're going to find a use case, maybe running your own firm or plugging into a larger company that needs to figure out what the hell is going on. How can we implement crypto? It's something pretty exciting. So, and these are the listings from BlackRock as well. What you got, TJ?
Well, nothing. I was just going to, just before we move on from this, like you said, these listings are just growing. And you mentioned the crypto that they're creating a crypto wallet. This is because they need to be able to custody digital assets for their high net worth and wealthy individuals. And that's kind of what I'm saying is the wealthy people of the world are explosively moving towards digital assets, whether not just the banks. On the banking level, they're trying to get set up for it. And the reason is they've got overwhelming demand from their clients that are saying, we want exposure to digital assets. We want to hold Bitcoin. We want to have interest-bearing stablecoins. We want to be able to partake in a tokenized RWA fund. Like that is coming explosively fast, and they're trying to play catch up right now. And this is part of why I'm so exponentially bullish. I'm curious from the chat. Let me know, you think I'm too bullish? Am I crazy for being this bullish, or are you with me? Just say too bullish or you're with me if you think I'm being too optimistic about what's coming over the next couple months, because I mean, it says it. 2026 is going to be explosive for crypto. Charles Hoskinson's out there saying February is going to be the month. I've been saying summertime this year, after Clarity Act, after Powell out, it's going to get immensely bullish very, very quickly. I'm just curious if I know I'm always the permabull. I'm always your local hopium dealer, and I'm still there. Yep, Huck's here with his water is wet things, and it's true. But optimism beats pessimism every single time.
And it raises your vibration. It raises your vibration. Absolutely.
It's just good for so many different things. I even saw, out an Alex Hormozy thing like that. The markets reward your courage far more than they reward your intellect. And that's extremely true. Boldness beats brains is how I used to say it. But, this is, again, if you're here now, this is the opportunity. These are great entry levels. Maybe it could go a little bit lower and you could scoop it a little bit lower, but that's a great opportunity too. But having this quiet before the storm, the fact that everybody's, bearish and everybody's leaving and everybody's quitting, these are always the best times to allocate and accumulate, to build something new, to find a way to apply your skills to this market, because the opportunity coming in the very near future is the best opportunity. And risk reward, this is probably the best time to be investing heavily in digital assets. So now's the time. Strike while the iron's hot.
It hasn't worked out for you, right? Being bullish and believing in something, God, you just run a bunch of companies. I am mad that I can't use your gym. Okay, I am really mad that it moved, but it's doing well. I like them.
Yeah, we've got a boxing gym over in Marietta. Then I got a meeting over there next Saturday. So
I'll be moving up to this neck of the woods. I'll get up here and get that figured out. So some stuff on altcoins, kind of interesting. 40% of U.S. merchants now accept crypto at checkout. PayPal is behind this. 4 in 10 U.S. merchants now accepting cryptocurrency at checkouts. Customers have shown increased interest in crypto for payments. So it's not just available, but they're seeing a slight uptick in people being willing to use crypto as payments. Nearly 9 in 10 U.S. merchants stated that they've received customer inquiries about these payments in crypto. PayPal reported on Tuesday that the data from a National Cryptocurrency Association survey conducted in October with 619 payment strategy decision makers from across the industries. And what they said is what we're seeing in the data and conversations with customers, that crypto payments are moving beyond just experimentation into everyday commerce. Now, I'm a crypto freak. I'm a degen, and I love spending Tether. I would say that spending Bitcoin, in my opinion, how I handle this, is a god-awful decision. I think spending Bitcoin this early into its black hole takeover of finances across the world is these governments can't stop printing. The governments cannot stop printing. And even if we see some sort of short-term, resolution to the conflicts, governments are designed to print their currencies into absolute near zero levels, and then reset the game. That's what these countries have done over and over again through like the majority of history of humanity. So crypto and Bitcoin and the proof of work and energy spent, data being the new oil, it's a pretty easy asymmetric bet for me and my family for this century. Please don't spend your Bitcoin. That's what I'm trying to say. So just be careful out there. Now, Fidelity also with their news, starting up its own stablecoin and a massive bet that the future of banking is on a blockchain, and they're calling this the FID token, FIDD token. Going to run on Ethereum. Not surprised by that. It's going to serve institution and retail users and comply with the new Genius Act reserve rules. So stablecoin targets use cases like 24/7 institutional settlements, on-chain retail payments, and it's going to put Fidelity in competition with the dominant users like Circle. Circle stock is looking a little tasty to me. I got to say, I forget about Circle stock a lot, TJ.
Yeah.
Someone mentioned it's only like $70 or something in the chat here.
Well, yeah, because it's starting to get real for Circle. If they're going to be competing with Fidelity, I mean, Fidelity has, some reports close to $7 trillion in assets under management. These are some of the big dogs. Obviously, they've got their own Bitcoin ETF as well. They actually are one of the few that handle the custody on their own, don't use Coinbase Prime. So Fidelity is definitely a market leader in TradFi coming into crypto here. And the fact that they're launching their own stablecoin, like the article says, is a pretty ringing endorsement that says all banking is going to be on chain. The banking leaders are all moving on chain, basically all moving to Ethereum. And this is why I'm still exponentially bullish on Ethereum. This is why I believe Ethereum has remained in an accumulation range for such a long time, because some of the largest and best accumulators in the world are accumulating a ton of it right now. And really, Bitcoin looks like it's the store value layer. Ethereum looks like it's the transactional smart contract layer, winner of choice. I'm also watching the lending and borrowing, which is another major factor. That's why you hear me talk about Aave and Morpho all the time. All of this stuff, again, exceptionally bullish. I saw somebody in the chat earlier. I lost the comment that said, everybody that's still here is either a retard or a true believer. I'm not sure which one I am, but maybe both. But here we are, and I think it's gonna pay off. Like it's hard for me to get more bullish on crypto, but I'm literally more bullish now at these prices and at this time period and with all this macro going on than I've ever been. Partially because I feel like this is just a rerun of what I lived through in late 2019, early 2020, before what turned into an incredible run for Bitcoin in mid to late 2020 and 2021. I think what started in May of 2020 is going to be May, June, like they call it DeFi summer in 2020. I think we're going to get another DeFi summer in 2026. And like Scott Bessent said at the top of the show, a multi-year bull market ahead. It's going to be glorious.
Well, and I've never been in a season where I felt more sure that crypto is here to stay. And the reason beyond like how good of a competitor DeFi is in what you can offer in terms of yield, helping people keep up with inflation, is some of the writing behind this is interesting here. So the FID token, backed by reserves of cash equivalents, and short-term U.S. treasuries. These are what the Genius Act are setting as the standard of what these stablecoin companies must have a nice balanced hold of, extending the lifespan of the US dollar, making Scott Bessent, the top currency general on the planet, happy that he's got a new buyer as Japan's having to potentially offload, and some of our bigger treasury holders across the world are wanting to offload our debt. Now we have the new players stepping into the realm, these crypto stablecoin companies that by the law setups of the United States with the Genius Act, you're going to be forced into holding a small amount, or at least a big chunk of the U.S. treasuries in the short-term U.S. treasuries, cash equivalents, and reserves of cash. So not only the military, but also stable coins backing up the U.S. dollar moving forward. Absolutely crazy times. Silver's been going nuts. Sold silver to a dealer this morning for a 3x over 18 months from Checkmate. The sell thesis was simple. Silver chart is now parabolic. He received 3 messages in 2 weeks asking how to buy it. FOMO from the friends asking, how do I get this? They want to top blast. Folks, don't top blast things. Gold and silver ratio has hit lows where it was historically peaking out. Every Twitter sub community is now a silver community. Top stuff. Some notes on the experience. Couldn't sell it yesterday because of public holiday in Australia. Lost a few percent waiting on the dealer to open 9 a.m. See, these are all the things that play into the physical sale of silver and gold that, I was in it. I have physical silver. I've dealt with physical gold. It takes some time to sell. And honestly, like silver and gold have been some of my favorite stable coins or things to ladder out of crypto. After a parabolic move in crypto, I was swapping it out for silver and gold when they were way cheaper, right? Way cheaper. So those are some things to think about.
You've been talking about JPM bullion since like the day I first came across you, first met you.
Yes.
So it's like, you're like, best place I go to buy my gold is here. And it feels pretty good these days, I bet.
Well, and it's a great way to like have an escape route. Like say I want to take some profits like I did on the Ethereum. I wanted to take that profit. JM Bullion like accepts crypto and has accepted crypto for years for hard-sided gold. So, it is one thing. Silver's overtaken social media sentiment is highlighting this as well, but one of the best traders I know of, that's not the quant, this is someone else that is very, very good. It's Flawless. Not only is he hilarious, he's fantastic at charts. Sorry, silver holders, but your day of reckoning has almost come. He's talking about a run back up, trying to run back up on silver before finding that final moment where you have to take a breather, because what goes up must come down. We can acknowledge and celebrate with silver and the price going up, but just be cognizant. And this is why I keep myself happy in the long term with assets I hold by not top blasting and buying when I feel like there's a generalized low with new developing higher lows on the chart for whatever asset it might be. That's how I look at things. Now some long-term news that looks pretty good for Solana here is WisdomTree is bringing up tokenized fund on Solana. American asset management company WisdomTree doing this on Wednesday, expanding these funds to Solana network. It is notable, though, that Ethereum is the king in the room when it comes to tokenized assets.
Absolutely. And this trend, Solana, I'm also a holder of Solana, and that is kind of like my beta play to Ethereum. You can kind of see how, BNB holds its weight, but then a lot of the rest of them are just kind of fighting for the little bit that's left. I've got my buckets in Ethereum and Solana, but I predict that this trend of tokenized funds is absolutely going to explode into really the rest of this year, but 2027, 2028, we're going to see. This is kind of what I'm talking about when I'm saying traditional finance is coming and coming fast.
Yeah.
Tokenized funds where people, it's easy for them to get exposure to these things. Tokenized RWAs, it will take a lot of illiquid assets and make them liquid and transferable. It's going to absolutely be an explosive trend that is around for the next decade and probably the hottest thing in finance in decade. For the first time in a long time, there's actually new tech. You hear the word fintech all the time. That's financial technology. Well, there wasn't a lot of tech in that for decades. Now they're actually getting some emergent technology that's going to really blow this space up. So I did want to hit this question. I'm curious from the chat. Well, first of all, smash the like button if you're watching right now. Thousands of people here, only a few hundred likes. I know we can get those numbers up, and we really appreciate that support. Goes a long way. Always have to tell the powers that be that you enjoy crypto content and spreading this bullish hopium out there. But I did see we've had some chat going back and forth on XRP being good or bad, and I saw this guy in here. I'm not to call you out too much. He said, I have 45K, my house, and my kids' college fund or college future all on XRP. Chat, I just want to know from the chat, is that a good idea or a bad idea? Is that reckless, or you think he's going to be okay? Let me know in the chat, and then we'll keep this conversation going.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Well,
all in on one asset.
Listen,
I got conviction, and conviction can pay.
Even in this environment, though, what you're talking about, like we don't have regulatory clarity. The road for these giant organizations to really hammer their money into real world assets has not been paved yet, but they're working on it with this Genius Act, Clarity Bill, all this. But snooping around RWA.xyz has been a great way to kind of see movements in RWAs, and I haven't looked at this chart in a little bit, but Canton Network. Have you seen what Canton Network has been doing? Wow. I bought a lot of this. Like I bought originally at 11 cents and then I really hammered it at 7 cents on the real nasty dip. And I didn't catch the like Pico bottom at 5.9 cents, but I did buy this. This is what I'm talking about, where you see a general higher low start to be developed after a nasty crash. It's an asset that I felt good infrastructurally was there. So I added big time to this. And now I am getting close to 100% gain because the average buy is at 9 cents now. That's fun. I love seeing these things.
Well, it just shows there's always opportunity in crypto if you're staying engaged. I know you and Crypto Vet did an interview with the founder of Canton. We're going to have that coming out on the channel maybe later this week, maybe next week. There's a lot to get through on the editing side, but yeah, I think that's another project that's here to stay. You know, do you have any kind of teasers, or what was the most interesting part of that conversation?
Yeah, I mean, I think the most interesting part is how little they care about what we used to know about crypto, how retail and like the hive mind on X would be the thing that moved the ball forward. Canton is way different, way above that. They're tapping into repo markets. They're tapping into multi-trillion-dollar markets, deflationary mechanisms on the token, things like that. So I'm pretty excited about it. Honestly, I'm pretty excited about it. And it's been walking up. It's starting to overtake. I wonder what number it's actually listed as in terms of, so it's listed as number 19 now. Holy cow. It is broken to the top 20 for altcoins even here. That is crazy. Zcash, watch out. Watch out, Zcash. You might be next for the Canton upswing. And as I said, we are going to be covering the FOMC. The meeting is in 2.5 hours. It's going to be Jerome Powell speaking. And really, I'm pretty excited about the chart action to be found there. So make sure you're tuned in at 2 p.m. I'll be starting up the show there. And also, if you're out there trying to find a buck, please don't fall for the Memecoin scams. John Dagita, a.k.a. John Lick, created a pump fund launchpad token. Lost 97% of its value within the first day of trading.
Probably wasn't even really him. You know, that's the guy who supposedly stole looks like stole from the U.S. Marshals through his dad's company. More than likely, this is just going on and somebody else comes and creates it and rugs it immediately. So to your point, stay safe out there. Don't go chasing short-term gains. Again, you've got time, and this is the revolution of your lifetime. Literally bigger than the internet. Like if you were alive and chasing capital markets in 1995 and you saw the internet come along, you had and still have decades of time to capture this innovation. You know, you could, if you understood the internet and what was possible with the internet, and you could time things right and create valuable things that provided value to your community, it was almost a limitless amount of wealth you could create. And we saw plenty of people do that. This is the exact same thing, just directly tied to monetary value. There's never been a better technology to change your life. That's why we always say change your life with Bitcoin. Not only does it store your value and your buying power better than any other vehicle that existed previous to this, it also allows you to transfer your value. It allows you to create value and earn capital in the most efficient way possible. So it's like, just don't get discouraged. Don't listen to the FUD. Don't listen to all the doom and gloom. There's a lot of doom and gloom out there, and that's because it's much easier to get clicks and get views with negative news than it is with positive news. People want a bias reinforcement, and it's very easy to say, it's all terrible. Things are worse today than they were before, and it's just simply not true. You can look at study after study, research after research that shows we are living in the best time to be alive. You have the most information at your disposal, the most resources at your disposal, the most leverage at your disposal, the most technology at your disposal than ever before. Take this opportunity to change your life. You are the only one who's in control of what you do and the actions you take. And if you do that with a passion and with, aggressive intent, meaning like, not aggressive like physically, just like actual intent to produce, and you get up every single day and you commit to it and you do the hard things, your life is going to get better. And that's something to keep in mind. Doing something, this does apply to meme coins. If you think it's going to be easy to make money, it's not. Basically, anything that's good for you in life starts hard and gets easier over time. Anything that's bad for you in life starts easy and gets harder over time. So if you just kind of filter everything through that, it'll change your life. And what you focus on expands. So just focus on this and it will expand. We just wanted to take a quick second to shout out our sponsor, Arculus. They are a cold storage hardware wallet, helps you secure all of your digital assets for the future. Just tap this thing to the back of your phone and boom, you're in. We wouldn't be able to do this without them, but also wouldn't be able to do this without you guys, the Disco fam. You've supported us a lot over the years. If you want to support the channel now, just use the code DC20. It gets you 20% off this card. It's the #1 way you can support this channel going forward. Thank you for your support. We'll see you at the top.